What's up,
All
guys?
right. The first
How we
foursome.
doing?
Yeah, the first foursome. We probably need a better phrase to describe this.
Yeah, that sounds a little weird.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, we're in our 13th foursome. How's that? Whoa, what kind of show is this?
It's a darn good show. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
It's a fucking best show ever. That's what this is. Yeah. No, Jeremy, welcome, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Well,
He's
this
like,
is
what did I
the-
sign up for? Fuck.
Yeah,
We're
this
8
is-
Man, I'm
seconds in.
about to hit the layout button and fuck everybody up.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
We all moved.
Yeah.
This
Yep.
is even weird from the standpoint of this is my first time officially on this
On this one, yeah.
show
Well, and
versus
as a
second time.
non-guest,
As
yeah,
a
right.
non-guest. Yeah.
Yep. So we're doing all sorts of new stuff, but I want to introduce everyone to Jeremy. Him and I have been friends for a very long time. We met in 2018. We were both doing a epigenetic certification coaching program together,
Oh, cool.
and we hit it off, became friends, and literally the conversations turned into the epic discovery of emotions, philosophy, spiritual tech. And so it got into like frequency medicine, how our DNA is impacted by being around other frequency energetic beings. We got into, in the downstream conversations ended up being like, what if we could invent a virtual reality machine that puts you in and says, oh, this type of archetype, Jungian archetype is your style, and you need to work on your lover rather than your warrior. Can we design a VR system that will imprint into your brain to teach you a different archetype so that you can respond with the world in a better way? And so what's so weird is that we
totally
all have
off-brand
this
for us.
Yeah.
this new neurovisor that all of us are experimenting with. It fits into this alley, and what him and I were discussing in 2018 and 2019 now has started to become a reality. And so I thought it would be really cool to bring him onto the show and just talk frequency, talk epigenetics, talk whatever philosophy, spiritual conversations that we can get out of this. Because the four of us are going to probably go down some really weird tangents that I think the rest of the world needs to hear.
You know what I love about my friends, Dave? None of them take drugs. Like, because everything you just said, I'm like, this is all, yeah. Like, I love it. No, it's great. It's Tom's right. It's right on the money, but wow. Yeah, that's all.
I'm just coming off. I told you guys, I literally threw up because I think the neurovisor was too much yesterday. So this will be a fun one.
Jeremy, Tom did like 27,
I did all of the brainwave entrainment things yesterday.
Yeah. And it didn't end well.
It did not end well. I even reached out to...
Tom, it ended perfectly. You got very clear feedback from your experiment.
That's true. Very crystal clear.
I think I had too many confounding factors, to be honest.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about how it goes.
So Jeremy, we couldn't say that 5 times fast if we tried, like what Dave just said. Like that's a lot to chew on. Like let's kind of peel that back a little bit slower.
Normally the question is, what brings you here?
Yeah.
My answer to that is fate and the gods.
Okay. Yeah.
Man, just honored to be here. Thanks, Dave, for that walk down memory lane, man. It's good to remember these things and how long we've been at this stuff. What time goes by, it's so bizarre. Dave recently reminded me of something that is really clarifying for me, is just this idea of the exploring meaning making. I think that's probably the most central core to my beingness in this world. And just in this space of exploring something Dave gave to me when we were working with our other buddy, who shall go unnamed, that he said, because I was trying to reverse engineer my own experience, because a lot of the things in what we were dealing with was I'm just a unique experience in the world. I've lost 100 pounds. I've remapped all sorts of trauma, mental health equations, certainly come to realize more that I'm this mystic, and that this space of nervous system regulation and epigenetics, that it's all one. And we, as these beautiful, powerful, flawed, messy humans, that we are just constantly in paradoxes that we think are like the truth. But it's really, to me, what I come down to is the simple nature of like what Dave said is it's a practice of our abilities. We're not trying to possess. I think it's a trap when we try to possess anything or to be static. Like, I want to be fit for the rest of my life, right? I want to live to be 250, like David Sinclair talked about, right? I want to, all these things. I want to take the right peptides. I want to be in the right medicine circle. I want to, walk the right amount of steps, right? I want to clear out my emotions and all of my traumatic baggage that's stored in the genome, in my cellular expression, right? All these things and so just like the real simplicity of that, I think the other thing I want to add to it to just frame the discussion is Dave and I have been a really wonderful foil in my experience, in that I come from a learning background. I was a teacher for a long time. And so I'm just a nerd for learning. And that's what Dave's been to me, is I don't know any of the stuff that he knows really well. And I judge vice versa in the feedback that he's given me. I'm a super spiritual cat. I'm really like in this space of where I'm at now is like devoted to spirit as I experience it internally in my body. And I've got all sorts of weird experiences, all sorts of weird mystical and miraculous stories for my whole life, down to things like the way that I dream and the way that I experience the world. And that's where my body of work comes out of, that I call Empath X. And I think that's enough for that framing. Yeah.
So let me ask, to me anyway, the most obvious question is like, did you just sort of you said you're a teacher. Did you just go to school one day, some kid like threw up on his desk and you're like, I can't take this one more second, I'm out of here kind of thing? Like, was there a thing, or did you just sort of evolve out of it, or how did we?
Yeah, I evolved out of it. The first big awareness was just I was really passionate about games for learning. It was back in 2004, 2005 when video games really started coming in, and I got involved in UW-Madison, their Games Learning Society conferences out there, got a master's degree in games for learning, and then slowly started realizing that system had no tolerance for anything such as that. Right. I was in virtual worlds back then when they were just like, nobody even knew about them, and doing all sorts of interactive digital stuff. And so, yeah, I'd say it was like the writing was on the wall, and it just took me time to integrate my identity, my role, and the experience of the trajectory of where I was to go.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because we talked to a lot of people, including one we literally just talked to moments before this show. We finished, and he did have a sort of a check out moment. It was a
7 months of homelessness.
7 months of homelessness. Yeah. But it was voluntary homelessness. He literally gave away everything he owned.
Just take it.
Like, just take it. And he was out. And like, it's funny because, where you see where he's at now, he couldn't have gotten here without doing that. And so, and I think you see this recursively in all conversations Tom and I have had, right?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, what a framing of the way that I see shadow in our world. I'm a big Carl Jung nerd, and I love that frame. It works so well for me, this idea of gold and shadow, and the way that maps to meaning making. And so just, I think to me, this space of what he's talking about, like giving away possessions, like the frame of our society is one of accumulation of possessions, of goods, of ability to have buying power, right? The relevance to our culture, which has always been like that. As long as there's been people that have gathered together, right? There's this hierarchy that we naturally fall into in that space. And so for me, it's certainly, I have deeply valued all the lessons that I learned along the way. The numerous times I boiled down my worldly possessions to what I could fit in my car, and this fit to people please, to be this entrepreneur that I thought that I was.
Right.
And to go through these things like, oh, you think this is what you are? Well, let's give you what you think that you want to help you realize that that's not really who you are.
That's an interesting way of phrasing it, isn't it? Like, so So yeah, all right. So we'll play along. We'll give you what you need and see and
see if that fulfills
and
anything.
see if that fulfills you. We know you're going to say fuck that, but
I mean, I love that framing of the way that people talk about the universe or God, that says like God is just going to agree with whatever you line up with.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I don't often agree.
Haven't won the lottery yet because God
yeah.
I haven't prayed the right way.
Yeah, and so this is where, and I'll just jump through this. Like my model helps me see and share my experience in this lens of what Dave challenged me to do back in 2019 is make flat and linear for people to understand what my experience and how I'm able to do what I'm able to do to move my own actual behavior. In fact, I lost another 40 pounds this last winter. Beside the point. Well, no, I guess that is the point.
I was just like, well, it's come up twice, so it's got to be important.
It is very important, just because there's so many people that have such a hard time with it that I feel like to me, I'm dealing with my embodiment of my beingness, my energy. And so this space of like dealing with going through, not that I'm trying to fix my shadow, but I'm trying to orient to be authentic to my own experience of who I've been made to be. And so this space of the story comes up into the first fundamental duality that we face as being human is the thinking mind and the feeling body. That creates this echo chamber of shadow being caught in the opposite of whatever we're focused on.
Let's break that apart.
My vape pen?
Yeah.
I told you guys this is going to be fun.
Break that down for me a little bit. Yeah.
I'll just stick to the Jungian frame. He says that shadow is the unconscious or subconscious. And that frames it from the thinking mind, which is where we need to start, because this is where we can change. The body follows the structure, right? All this Bruce Lipton stuff, everything that we know about the chemistry of the body, the cell structure, the cymatics of my beingness begin with that structure of the meaning making that I have in the story, not the charges that come through or the exhaust of the chemicals. And so in that space, the way I see Carl Jung talking about the actual space of shadow and gold is about the charge itself, not the story that we have behind it. And people usually do the opposite, is because most of that energy is tied into who I think I am. And that thinking is the ego. And so people want to say, like, check your ego at the door. You can't. Unless you want to just be a vapid sleeve for whatever demon wants to come through, clothed as some angel that, your ayahuasca tea third cup is bringing out. Right?
That sounded oddly sexual, too.
Yeah.
Vapid sleeve.
And Jeremy, weirdly specific. It's almost like that's happened before.
Matt, I missed it. What did you say it again?
I said that's also very specific. Maybe because it's happened maybe twice or three times.
Sure.
We don't.
Yeah. And this story that I'm like relating to is mine, and I've done enough of it to where like I don't mind being seen for who I am. I'm aware of it. So to me, to come back to Matt, I think your question was around this space of breaking down the understanding of that shadow. I think it's simpler to say that Carl Jung talks about it from that lens where most people put it into the category of your thinking mind. That subconscious is awareness of the mind, that unconscious is the inability to see in the mind. And really, I think it's the inability to feel it in the body first. Like the cells, the body keeps the score kind of stuff.
And it's funny, and I'll try not to reference him again, but we literally just had this conversation, so it's almost uncanny how many parallels are here, is that his idea was, wouldn't it be cool if we could turn on and off the linear nature of the universe at will? Because you need linear sometimes if you got to get shit done. But if you really want to, and I like the words you're using, meaning making, right? Like I've never used those words before, but like he was saying, if you're trying to solve a problem that's really hard, or if you need to think through something that's a little bit out of bounds, you really need to switch off the linear nature of, and I'm hearing a lot of the same thing. You're using mind and body. And I think in my interpretation of what you're saying, and maybe I've got this wrong, but like the brain is that linear path and the body is that sort of like non-linear path.
You could certainly say it that way. I mean, I think that I like to come back to, again, that practice of abilities, that the frame of how you're using it will be shown in the efficacy of your own beingness, like the confidence that you wield, the clarity that you have of how Matt gets to be Matt, Tom gets to be Tom, right? That authenticity that Dave talks about, really coming into that space that for those of us that have that ability, it's a mystery to those that don't, and vice versa, you know? Like Dave's a super rational guy and I love him for that. I'm very irrational. I'm not. I'm just how I'm wired, what I've gone through. And so I think for me, that frame that you just said of like really trying to stop the mind from being linear, I say, no. It's just recognizing that I am not my linear mind. And so the energetic lens of it says that when I come into the awareness of a belief that I hold that's limiting me, then it dissolves into the field. And then my work is integration, because it's the body that reminds me that I used to believe that I don't matter. It's that little simple childhood belief that I integrated when that first landed for me. That's usually a mix of what mommy and daddy gave me, but it's landing here and it's my sovereignty of that child that doesn't know, right? That innocent little child that's integrating it through their own sovereignty, but they don't know they're sovereign. So this becomes this unpacking as an adult that most people are unaware of.
Sure.
Is that they forgot how to have faith because Santa Claus isn't real and everybody knows it.
Right. Interesting. Although that other guy, Tom, who was it that we were trying to reach out to, the physicist? He goes, we stopped believing in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny because it's of course ridiculous. But God, on the other hand, now that's real. You're like,
was that Penn and Teller? I think that might have been Penn and Teller.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, dude, that's probably jarring to a lot of people.
Yeah, and also to me, I think that those people that get jarred, that jarring is the evidence of shadow within themselves.
You're tapping on that.
Directly.
And that the evidence of it, even not just that there's a trigger within, but that there's a projection without. And that's where Carl Jung comes in, is he says all these demons and all this evil that you think you see out here is really your own fear of what you're embodying that you can't see.
Right. And it's funny, I've talked to a lot of people who don't do any self-exploration or have very little sort of like exogenous input about these types of things. And they even know, hey, this is me projecting something outwards. Like there's even this innate like knowledge. They don't have words necessarily, but I've talked to a bunch of people that are like, I'm probably afraid of this because I'm something inside of me, or I'm reacting strongly to this because of something inside of me. And they just know. They don't care. They're not going to try to fix it.
Or that they've reached a level of comfort and really they're warring to hold on to the familiar, right? I mean, the number of times that I think, how does it say in the scripture? Broad is the path to destruction and many find it. Narrow is the gate to life and few walk it.
Oh, interesting.
What scripture is that, being a recovering Catholic?
If you Google it, we can Google it.
I don't even bother. No, it's not worth it. It sounds great.
Yeah. But you know, it's funny though. I actually kind of personal mantra go the exact opposite way, except I have a toggle switch for that for sure, where I'm like, okay, broad is generally how I look at it. But when I need to get an answer, I know how to downshift to narrow and how to negotiate that path. But ultimately, I think I'm most comfortable just having that broad lens on because, you know, we talked about this before a couple times here. Like I will meet people everywhere all the time under every circumstance. Right. That's because I'm just in broad mode all the time. You know, like
I think that's actually a trait. Like if we look at entrepreneurial personality types, a true entrepreneur will be able to do that. Yeah, because it's like if you have the vision and if you have the broadness without being able to go to focus, you never get anything done. If you only have the focus and you don't have the broadness, well, that's how you end up as an admin.
Yeah, right.
So this is my postulate. I love that this is coming up because so that is like a mechanism. It's a framing mechanism that your mind is going to use to make sense of these two fundamental, like, you know, APA questions. Who am I and what is there, right? And so those are the tools that you use to make meaning. And what I realized through all of these explorations of my own space, but also religion and all sorts of wonderful plant medicine journeys that got me to dissociate and experience that uniquely, and then come back to integrate and to change my own system internally, is how simple it is. It's really going back to that sovereignty that I had as a 5-year-old, where I could play with anything. I could imagine anything. And for me, in my little 5-year-old space, it was very real. Just like a dream or a vision that an entrepreneur would have. I mean, as truly as entrepreneurs, is like we don't know, but we have this vision that drives us to discover what is, who I am, and how these things really want to come to homeostasis, how these things really want to come to coherence, how these things really want to, in the body sense, get out of the way so the body can heal itself.
And I've had this like brewing question inside of me. I've never done an ayahuasca or like no retreat to the wilderness and no shamans or whatever.
Yeah.
I've had experience with psychedelics for sure for years, but I've never had one of those like hero experiences, right? And I'm actually curious because like when I was in college, I did cocaine probably 5 or 6 times, maybe not even that much, to be honest. Right.
Okay.
And every time, the reason why I didn't do it more, meanwhile, everyone around me is doing cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Very popular drug in my college, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's doing cocaine. And I did cocaine and I'm like, I mean, I could go to sleep right now. Like, I'm not like, it did literally nothing. Fast forward 20 years, I'm in a therapist's office and he asks me, what about your drug use, whatever. And we got to cocaine. We're going down the list, heroin, blah, 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 blah. We get to cocaine. I said, yeah, a couple of times. It didn't do anything. He laughs, turns his notebook around, and it said he's going to have no effect on cocaine. That was written down long before he asked me this question. And I said, why did you write that? He goes, because your body just doesn't need cocaine because you're always on cocaine. Like
that is already toggled. That switch is already on.
Like, you're already there. And so doing it is going to do nothing. And I'm wondering if there's more of that in other things. Like, I don't know that. I'm actually almost afraid. I'm curious, but I don't know. If I sat in a room and took like a hero dose of psilocybin, I'm not sure anything's going to happen, to be quite frank. Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'm curious. Like,
there's one way to find out.
There is only one way to find out.
Yeah, I want to empower your perspective that you don't need medicine. And the reason I want to is for all the people that are listening, which is a majority of people I've found that will never do medicine. That there's just a no to dealing with the dissociative element of the mind that comes with plant medicines, which is the common factor to all of them. They have some sort of element of, even cannabis, that there's a space of orienting differently that is fearful for people because of that space of, I know already who I am. And so in that space of those of us that have had big traumas that we got to do something, it's out of this desperation oftentimes. And oftentimes the drive to just belong, to have clear, non-religious, non-cult, which it becomes a religion, it becomes a cult, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a slippery slope there, Jeremy.
Slippery slope, sure. And I think to me, what I come back to, Matt, is this space of, you don't need it. It's really easy to take something and to have an experience, but then it becomes this impassable chasm from that mountaintop you experienced to back home down in the valley where you actually live. To integrate those messages, it becomes this mystical, wild story that you tell that no one really believes, that even in your body you don't know what to do with, and it doesn't actually really, for most people, integrate into changed beingness, into changed behavior, into changed choice frameworks, or even what slice of sky they're looking at.
Right.
Yeah, this is a topic that is very close to home in Austin, is that Jeremy and I met here in Austin, and the culture here is that people have zero integration with the psychedelics here, and there's this huge psychedelic movement that, I mean, we can just see herds of people forming cult-like. There's literal churches here of psychedelic churches and everything, but they literally are at the point where they are doing these things 3 to 4 times a week because they don't know how to live in the in-between. Yeah. And they feel like and they're just proud, right? You see them on social media, they're like, oh, I'm doing my healing journey, I'm doing my, and they're all proud of what they're doing, and Jeremy and I would just sit there and look at it and go, oh my goodness, like they're not doing anything different than what they were doing before, of like
you just substituted one thing for another.
They're not actually fixing themselves, they're just chasing that high.
Well, I have a friend who was an alcoholic who transferred when vape pens came out. Then he was like a weedaholic, if that's a thing, and now you could vape DMT and psychedelics. Now he's doing that, and I'm like, so we're not trading. We're not like upgrading life. We're just trading for a new problem, right?
Well, look, it doesn't even have to be a drug. I've seen it happen where alcoholics get clean and they're at the gym 24/7.
Yeah, exactly.
And it could be that the healthy.
When I was doing Ironman,
was one of that. Yeah.
When I was doing Ironman, I did Jeremy. I did 7 Ironman and 26 marathons, and you know what those groups have in common? They're all fucking recovering alcoholics. Every single one. Like not just alcoholics. They're alcoholics with tattoos on 98% of their body. Like everything's like next level.
Feel, since I'm the guest on the podcast, I want to come back to my model that really, for me, the way that I frame it is the first fundamental duality. You're thinking mind and your feeling body. Are you a master of these things? You've been given both, but you are neither. They're an extension of you, right? It's this discrete self, if you want, rather than the continuous I am the field, I am God self, because I'm here practicing myself. That first thing is most people are addicted to and run by their thinking mind. They can't sit and meditate. And I love working with cannabis. I run a lot of cannabis circles. And it's funny how many times it's the same story. Oh, I can't do that medicine. I'm too anxious. It drives me. And it's like, not that they have to, but that brings up, again, that shadow, that part of themselves that they're not looking, is to say that my mind is running the show. And when I bring on something on board, you don't have to, right? But when it brings it up, that's when the shadows open. It's like the transcriptome. It's like the Dave, help me here with the biology of it, is when the RNA, DNA, when it's wrapped too tight, it can't be read.
Yep. That's the epigenetic expression of all of this.
That field is really that full energetic embodied self of thinking mind and feeling body coming together to the third thing. The third thing that we used to call ether. Right? This third thing that we used to measure and talk about, this ability to orient to, that we had all sorts of sonic, light-based cultural things that we all resonated with. And now the marketplace is gone. It's online, right? Our ability to coalesce feels like we're totally have all of the representation we could, but we're as fractured as we've ever been, right?
Sure.
And so that space of coming into that recognition, we need to begin with the mind. And that first space that people get confused is, I have to stop my thinking mind and I just can't do it. And it's like, well, then that first thing is, well, why are you trying to stop something you'll never be able to stop? Just notice it. And that's the beginning of that practice, is coming into what, for me, I've helped people so many times, is to see almost everybody in that mind is thinking, and I'll pause with this one, is that they're trying to replace the negative with the positive. I don't like all this stuff and I don't want all this bad. Let me put in all this good and all this positive vibes only and all this community and all this cult, really. And the reality is that they're just mirroring and flip-flopping. And the point is, we have to begin with that neutral. And that's the space where Carl Jung starts talking about, when that shadow emerges, you now have the ability to start reading it, to start noticing what arises, those things that have been imprinted in the nervous system and stored in the cells that now are coming through, that could be your lived experience, or it could be that great-great-grandmother's inheritance.
Right.
I will say this concept right here is where and why I consider him my spiritual mentor and my philosophical mentor, is that when I first came across him, he really helped me see this concept of previous traumas that I had and this polar opposite of the extremes, right? Like when I was experiencing my health issues, I went and did an Ironman as the counterbalance to it. And the reality is that made me worse, because literally I was doing the same thing. I went from not taking care of myself in a very destructive way to hyper taking care of myself. And it ran me into the same problems. And he helped me see that over the past 5-6 years, I've worked on this neutral component of it, of becoming even like in a simple tactic of very non-reactive to watching news, right? Like that is an example of there's no reason to be polarized, good or bad, about a news segment. It's like there's going to be certain facts that you need to try to pull out, and there's no reason to have emotions behind it. And so like that's where the practicality of this has helped, and it's allowed me to make better business decisions, better family decisions, better loving decisions, like all of those sorts of things in my personal everyday single life.
And you know, there's almost nothing more destructive to people around you than not reacting to a news story right now. Like, it's like instantly like explosive. What do you mean you're not outraged? I'm like, I'm just not. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm writing down notes here because Dave, you said something I want to hit on, but Matt, that idea of like that I'm not reacting to those experiences around us is like at an all-time high right now because of that identity factor.
Mm-hmm.
That we're othering, we're creating an us and them to support who I think I am. And if you don't fit with who I think I am, if you disturb that, it's upsetting.
Sure.
So that point is what we're going through right now, that we're going through the globalization of our species. And so because of that, what's up is all the nationalism. What's up is all of these like smaller subsets of a globalized species that are upset with their identities being threatened. Because that's how it's going. That's how it's happening. So because of that, we get polarized, like Dave just said. And the same thing you said behind it, Dave, is a common thing that you said, that there's no reason for the emotions behind it. And it's true. Everything's meaningless. That's what it says in Ecclesiastes, which almost didn't make it into the Bible. But if you want to go read Stoicism, Dave, you'd love Ecclesiastes. It's
some last minute lobbying by Ecclesiastes people.
But it's this idea that I love, again, going back to meaning, is he says there's a refrain. It's Jewish poetry, to forewarn you. And he has this refrain that he keeps repeating throughout the whole book, is meaningless, meaningless. Everything's meaningless. And King Solomon's the author, who's supposedly the smartest dude to ever live, right? Who cares about that? But the idea of, like, to me, it's not saying that everything's meaningless. It's saying that everything's meaningless and inviting us to make meaning of it. Like, we get to make meaning of it. And so if Dave's holding on to, there's no reason for the emotions behind it, but there is an experience within Dave's body, and I'm making this up for, this example's sake. If there's some sort of unresolved trauma that Dave forgot about, that could have been something as meaningless as his mom ignored him because she was busy when he was trying to show him his drawing when he was 6 years old. I don't know. But that gets stored in that body as the truth that kid holds on to, that I'll use mine, it says, I don't matter. And that truth gets seared into here. And so then what exhausts out of that is what we get to keep coming into. Beliefs like there's no reason for those emotions behind it. And we go right through it without even thinking about it. And that's the space where community comes in, where it's hard to sit there and say, and this is what Dave and I have done a lot of, is let's repair our relationship. Let's drop in and talk about getting clear on the mess we just experienced. Like, I am super hyper vigilant about defining every emotion I feel. So I get upset when Dave says there's no reason for those emotions. Emotions are really meaningful. And so again, I'm going to wrap with this, is this idea that it's not about Dave saying that. It's really about the unexplored part of myself that goes back to remember that it was my father who imprinted on me that emotions don't have any value, that emotions don't matter, and so this is this space of, this is the mind that we get to keep digging into. This is the mine that we keep extracting this stuff up from, this practice of this ability just to go inward, that most people are terrified of and have all sorts of excuses to do anything but just sit still.
So you said something that has me kind of curious. I've never heard anybody say this before, but it almost feels like, just to reduce it real fast, like we're having these growth pains of this globalization, of our species, right? And it's funny because I've never really framed it like that before, but I did get into a sort of a strange conversation recently that I think I'd love to hear, how you see this going. But they said, having Beijing or Taiwan make all of the world's chips, and having India maybe do a lot of clothing, and you have, electronics are over here and textiles are over there, and it kind of is the same thing as a village, right? You'd have a blacksmith and a cooper and the only difference was those people lived locally, right? So like you could go to the barrel maker and the horseshoe guy, and it's all there. Ultimately, we're just replicating that model on a much, much larger scale, and yet we're all freaking the fuck out about it. Like, I mean, what do you see sort of a leveling out as time, or do we just like implode on this problem?
I mean, both and neither. I love the idea that comes from the evolution of humanity, that we have all these discoveries of realizing there were multiple species all existing at the same time, and most likely they were all fucking, right?
Yeah.
And that space of like early humanity that arises from that chaos that we could. It's our mind that wants to find discrete, linear, unfolding processes we could understand and study. And I think it's the chaos that we'll never be able to understand.
Interesting. Yeah, that is that got my mind kind of tied up on that one.
I'm going to have some weird YouTube searches now.
Yeah, that's unique.
Well, maybe not YouTube, but it's going to be Pornhub. But
well, I think for me to come back and answer a little bit further beyond that is, I think for me, most people are looking for those answers out there. I'm trying to figure out, my mind is trying to figure out there. And for men, most of us is like, nope, none of this in here. Nope, put that away, push that down. Nope, can't feel that. And we find spaces of stoicism and control and safety through the mind controlling. Right? We're really good at compartmentalizing and deciding this is.
I love that you brought up stoicism there, because CBT is rooted in that, right? And it's funny. I watched this, and I think he was a historian, but he was talking about when cultures are referencing the Greeks, like Plato, Socrates, they seem to be on this upward trajectory. But as the culture tends to start to fucking decline, we see stoicism and cynicism coming around. And I'm like, I can't, swing a dead cat and not hit 15 LCSWs that aren't like teaching CBT. And there's value in that. You'll get through shit.
Yep.
But there is just hey, I'm just going to control what's wrong with me.
Yeah. That's hard. It's hard for people to do, because it's a paradox.
Yeah.
To believe that if I do work in here, it's going to impact work out there. I'm trying to keep my finger off camera. It is the opposite to the way the mind thinks, because the mind can only know what it already knows.
Yeah.
It collapses things and connects things that are not collapsible nor connected. It makes associations from A to B and over an impassable chasm.
That's AI. You're describing it.
Exactly.
Well, it's nonlinear thinking, isn't it? And we just have fucking these themes, man. They just go on tears.
I love that old saying that says that the mind is a terrible master but a wonderful servant. So if we come into this space and say like, oh, it's wrong or bad, like ego death, and leave your ego at the door, well, then you're resisting yourself. You're creating from an energy of resisting yourself, which is fine if you're doing it from a place of that divine, which we would call self-discipline. Totally different energy than me resisting against something external, rather than coming into the self-discipline around something external. Tom, you brought up porn a bunch of times. For me,
that's what we call a day ending in Y.
I've been in front of the computer screen a long time, man.
And I'm a big Gabor Mate fan. I believe that all coping mechanisms are okay. Like if you need to go to your whatever chemical you want to put in your body, and if this is the destruction you feel like you want to get on meth, this is where out here in the Appalachians, everybody's on meth.
Was that his Hungry Ghosts book?
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it becomes this like, just you're going to decay. And if that's what you're going to choose, God bless you. I'm not going on that train. I know where it leads. I'm familiar enough to where I want to live. I want to be light. I want to be in love. And it's not that I got to be the positive. It's that I get to go into the spaciousness where death is, where the end of myself is, and allow everything, and then discern to say, this is the one. It's that narrow is the gate. Like, I'll know the gate when I get to it. I say no to so many doctors. No, 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 no. But then I hit Dave, and I'm like, yes. And to me, that experience is one of energy, which is simple. Are you with me, or are you trying to make yourself right and smart and have the right answer to get to your next appointment? And usually that withness, it breaks it down. Like, I've done a lot of clinical behavior change work around all this stuff, just because I've gone through that space of knowing, oh yeah, I have to change me. It's not that I'm doing it for someone, which is a lot of the gamification of the system, right? All these like external, things outside of yourself, right? That extrinsic, that's the word I was looking for. Those extrinsic rewards that are just basically dopamine hits, that are basically this like fetching for some vapid shifting sands, which is why everybody's so freaked out and polarized right now. I'm going to go to my community that makes me feel like I belong, I'm safe, I'm sane, and everything's going to work out fine. It's an energy. It's what they're looking for in here, and everything else is a fakery. It's a trap, as Ram Dass says. But the beginning of them, they become this salvation. It becomes this hero that shows up in your victim story. It becomes this forgiveness of your parents when you realize they were just doing the best they could. All these sorts of mechanisms that are really just about sovereignty. That when I come right down to it, I'm all by myself. And because I'm all by myself for so many years, just being by myself, I've got so many words to say out loud as you guys are experiencing me. Like, this is really this space of like, I think I'm starting to understand what's happening here. That it, like Joe Dispenza says, that I hold on to the feeling as if within in order to allow spaciousness for it to arrive. And what I've found, and this to me is the most compelling evidence for that God exists, is that it's almost like this being is waiting for me to drop it all and just turn and face that direction. And the universe conspires in my favor. It gives me more than what I've abundantly above and beyond. Not when I'm pleasing it, when I come into authenticity. When I come into it, I'm no longer putting on masks to try to make Tom happy. I'm not going to put that dress on, Tom, no matter how many times you ask me, right? Like whatever kinks arise. But
you know how long it took me to sew that damn thing?
I'll just do the photo shoot.
All right.
It's for charity. One shot.
Yeah.
But the last thing I'll say on that is like, it's really about that space of that authenticity of coming into who I've been made to be, which is that wielding my own power, stepping into the fullness of who I've been made to be. I'm not trying to flaunt it anymore, but I'm also not holding it back either. I'm gonna speak my heart. I'm gonna be passionate. I'm gonna be me because I care. To other people that are open and receiving and calling. I'm not out on the corner of downtown Asheville with a Bible on a box on a megaphone. I'm not trying to. I love Dave, and so because of that, I'm happy to hop on and share my heart, my passion with Tom and Matt. Right? It's like that space of like it's not something I need to herald. It's something that he and I have walked through together, and I have faith in not Santa Claus, but in the space of what Dave and I have forged together over time, over difficulty, over challenge. Over coming back to it and realizing, oh, the thing I was afraid of that Dave would say or do or be or think or feel, just not there.
Right. And I do think that's a really hard concept for a lot of people, myself included. But as I do a lot more of this work and have more of these conversations, it gets easier. But like understanding or having faith, if that's the right word, but having faith or belief that if I create space for expansion, for understanding, for empathy, even if I don't have it or understand it or can articulate it, just create the space for it. The universe hates a vacuum indeed, and it's filled with that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost magically filled with that stuff, if that makes sense. Like, so you have to like sort of like just really like hold your nuts and say, okay, I believe it. And then poof, it just sort of ends up happening. But it's difficult, especially when shit goes wrong or it's taking too long.
Honestly, and we've had so many people on talking about their near-death experiences and things like that, and that always seems to be the to not to use a religious term, but using a religious term, the come to Jesus moment. Like when I realize that, right? You know, that like, it's there. I just didn't see it.
Or I didn't want to see it.
Right, or something was holding me back, or I was holding me back more.
Or what
than
was that book
else,
about
right?
the 5 last questions? I think it was called, right? Where they interviewed
the
NDE book.
Huh?
NDE, near death experience.
Yeah, it was like
it was
this
like
guy
5 questions on the deathbed or something like
5
that.
5 questions
right?
for the dying or something like that. It was like what? Yeah, but it was crazy because like it boiled down to like the same 5 questions, like a couple hundred people. Like it's always the same thing.
I love all these things, man. All the NDE stuff is to me evidence that the mind is trying to understand something that you're never going to be able to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So in my model, Dave helped me develop out 6 epigenetic body explorations, 6 Jungian analytical mind explorations, and 6 energetic yields. And those yields are all of them are sets of 3 and 3. And so the foundational 3 of the yields that we're looking at, the first one is faith. But I define faith as the experience of coherence, like Heart Math defines. That when I come into that space of like, I'm terrified, I'm afraid, I forgot who I was, I don't know what's going to happen. All those things are the crisis of faith or being out of coherence. And it's being out of coherence that helps me define coherence. And so I learned faith. I learned faith not by some mystical religious ceremony or practice, but the actual nervous system experience of the thinking mind, feeling body come into that space of like, oh no, game over, which is what all these psychedelic medicines offer. It's what meditation really does. And so in that space of like defining that coherence, it gets sharpened. Another scripture says iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another, is that space of energy, like what Dave and I found. Sorry, I keep referencing this one, but it's the one available right here. Is that Dave and I have found this space where like I feel like over time that he and I have had these like, I don't know about that. Or, oh my God, what did you just say again? Those experiences are that space of being in community and coming back to coherence. So many people get knocked out. The criminal in the community that offends somebody gets kicked out so fast these days.
Sure.
And all they do is placate the victim and keep everybody happy. When in reality, the true communities are the ones that hold restorative circles and restorative spaces to see that now there's this evil that's been allowed in, this demonic that's been allowed in, the shadow that's in our presence that will get to help us come to greater collective coherence when we face it together, when we go through it together. When we keep practicing, because right, Dave, it's not like we had one conversation and everything was hunky-dory. We kept coming back to having these, and it's like over and over again. Same thing that kids do. Mommy, Daddy, are you mad at me? Mom, or the behavior like, oh, I broke the lamp again, Dad. Whatever. It's just like these explorations of like to affirm, to be in this space of coming back to coherence. So there you go.
Yeah, another thing I've not really thought about. We are quick. I mean, cancel culture is a real thing, right? Like, I mean, you're instantly canceled these days, right? You can't say anything, right? Yeah. We actually had a woman on the show once talking about it. She was working with convicted sex offenders, some pedophiles.
Certainly
in some cases.
A taboo topic, right? There, yeah.
And she said, "I'm working on them to love themselves again." And Tom and I, even in our, I would say, more expansive state than most, right? We were both like,
I think I might have referenced, hey, bullets are cheap.
Yeah. We were like, we got real sort of like, I mean, it screeched my brakes anyway. I was like, holy fuck, are we really saying we should be loving pedophiles? Is that a thing right now? Like,
the easy answer that I have for that is that we separate the action from the actual sovereign individual. And so,
well, no, she's saying the similar thing. Yeah, but it's a hard thing to hear, right? Because our first and only reaction these days is get this fucking guy. Like Tom said, bullets are cheap, right? Like, let's.
And here's another paradox, right? Like healing for the pedophiles. but also let's not put them in charge of our kids.
For sure. Yeah. Like, yeah, right. Yeah. Let's
or country.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and again, when we elect leaders that are tyrants, that's an evidence of something that we're not seeing about ourselves.
Right.
And so if we want to villainize that bad guy out there, he's a symptom. Really, it's us coming to this, again, what I said, this globalized experience of humanity. Not that we're going to get there. Maybe we won't. Maybe it'll be, I have no idea. Well, we'll find out. Something's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Or not. I mean, I think it's easy to, if you just look back even within our own lives, we look like we're all plus or minus the same age, right? Like, I mean, we've all seen about the same amount of stuff, right? And, you know, this isn't the first time we said, oh my God, we're at the brink of collapse. Well, I'm 49 years old and we haven't yet collapsed. But I've heard we're gonna several times. Like, I mean,
I've got my fingers crossed still. I'm still waiting for it.
Yeah, well, I
mean, I'm waiting for Bitcoin to drop back down so that I can buy more.
That's right.
So you can buy again.
Yeah.
Matt, I love that framing, and to me, the evidence of the energy that we're talking about here is that the marketplace is always going to exist as long as there are people here. We could lose 90% of our population, and we're going to still find each other. We're going to still create some sort of way to interact, because I'm not made to be by myself. I'm made to be together. And so right now, it's just this dominance of us and that this species that we're going through and really coming to terms with our own sovereignty, our own power. And so we're in a very dark phase of looking at all our shit, looking at all this stuff, all our upsets. And so it's easy for that first step to be, what about their upset? That's not okay. And you're right. That's not okay. But if you're trying to change that out there before and instead of changing this in here, you're not going to really get very far.
But I mean, I've talked about this with my parents and in particular, like my grandparents are no longer alive, but I mean, I've certainly sort of commented a lot, like, you know, if you look at the difference between my grandparents, my parents and me, there is a very big difference. My grandparents were from a paper mill town in Pennsylvania. There was 8 kids. The dad was, my grandfather told me a story once. He learned how to drive stick when he was 8, driving his dad home wasted from a bar.
Wow.
Like these aren't stories that we have here anymore because we just don't do that. But at one point, if you went to that town and asked how many 8-year-olds have driven their parents home from the bar, I'll bet you'd have more than a few hands. Yeah. Right. Like this wasn't like abnormal. So like if you just transplant for a minute and talk about thinking, mind, feeling, body to that person, they are going to punch you in the face.
For sure.
They're not gonna,
and you can see in their context, Matt, because their worldview, right? Who am I and what is there, is about that little that little circular village that they have, which is the way we're made, right? I think that there's some researchers number that talked about community growth, that it's only like 100 people that we could really be connected with. And in communities, it's like
Dunbar number.
Right, Dunbar number. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is that there really is a threshold of community that I can't. It's overwhelming to imagine 8 billion people. I cannot fathom
It's a lot.
It's overwhelming to imagine 350 million Americans. I can't fathom that. It's irrational to my brain. I can't, but I can think about the 10 people that I see every week.
Sure. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I mean, that's
even evolutionary, right? We can only really understand about 80 to 120 people,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I think this is that shift of like your model you're talking about to that small town PA dad that says like, there's a sense of safety of knowing that my kid's driving the tractor, Barry Havowitz has got the farm next door. And I know if he runs into his house, we're going to be fine because we'll just fix his porch together. Whatever. I'm making stuff, right? But
no, you're not wrong. I mean,
there's that sense
and I think that's why I was kind of like, I think, without saying it, I think in my mind, that was sort of the spirit of my earlier question. Like, because if we are upshifting to a global community, right?
Yeah.
All that is finding a new stasis point, which is where we were, just on a bigger scale, right? It's just larger.
Right.
And it made sense before, It made sense in Pennsylvania and that story. Why wouldn't it make sense in a global level, except for the fact we're just terrified because you can't go fix some guy's farm in Germany because it's not around the corner. I mean, I guess
where that thinking starts to fall apart, however, is that if you take a whole region, the individualistic component of that region will supersede the the overall country size. So like Jeremy and I talk about frequencies, shared frequencies together, and that's why this 80 to 100 person, 120 person thing works so well, is that there's this frequency vibe that actually gets shared between those people. Anything above and beyond that frequency doesn't reach. And so this is where, like, if every single person in Taiwan was involved in making computer chips, then the statement can be true that, oh, Taiwan does computer chips. India does clothes, right? But that's not the way that country actually exists. That just happens to be their major economic export, which is actually only 1% of the population. It just happens to be their gross domestic product. So that's where that concept starts to fall apart. But I do love your mental thought process behind that. If we look at Nassim Taleb and his the barbell principles and one of his latest books of the unequalness of it, there's that component of the neighbors still have to put up fences. And it's just the way human nature actually is. It's a fascinating concept for another time. I don't want to dive into that now because that's a whole nother hour-long conversation.
A whole nother thing.
That all plays a part into this, is that there will always be walls to be built so that you protect yourself against the other neighbors.
Yeah, but have you ever seen Zootopia or Element? Right, like They're two cartoons.
I love that, man.
They're two cartoons, right? Jeremy, have you ever seen?
We know someone has kids here.
Yeah,
well, it's so funny too, where like people like shit on like cartoons and stuff like that, but the messages are just as valid as like Gabor Mate or anybody else, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God. What is it? Inside Out might be the best.
Yeah, man.
Might be the best lesson on neuroanatomy of anything I've ever seen. It's like really fucking well done. Anyway, my point is like in Zootopia, you've got these districts, right? Like the hippos are over here and the whatever. Yeah. And Dave, I think that you're not wrong, but at the same time, like just because Taiwan makes chips doesn't mean that they don't need belts, right? And like there's going to be a guy in Taiwan that's going to make belts, and like eventually there's going to be a soccer team that from Taiwan that's going to go play somebody else, and there's like this little thing. So I think that we're going to always have that sort of push pull from nationalism or localism or tribalism out to globalism. Like those are all going to be always in contest with one another. But I think that ultimately, like, if you look around, like even if for no other reason than economic gain, right? Like if you're in abject poverty and you're like, all I have to do is learn how to make computer chips and now I can participate in this other system. Like, well, I guess we're making computer chips.
It sounds like an OnlyFans justification.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even go there.
Yeah.
I'm just telling those callbacks, Tom.
Yeah.
Look, man, I grew up, my father's a talent agent. I grew up around a bunch of comedians. I bartended at a comedy club for years. And look, man, the callbacks are where it's at.
The callbacks are where it's at. Yeah.
Dave, I want to speak to what you're talking about, this space of like, not everybody's going to be that chip maker. And really, I think that's a really great experience of the way that we think about things being linear, when really it's chaos. And it's the mind that makes the connection, that the thing that arises, that gets popularized, that gets into the zeitgeist and becomes the cult mantra, right? Everybody's a pickleball player, right?
I fell out of the loop because I didn't know what banana ball was.
Can we add that?
Everybody's like, at the banana ball game. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Can we add that to our T-shirt list, Tom? Yeah. Everybody's a pickleball player.
I think that's amazing.
So great. And really, that's evidence of this collective cultural safe spaces that I can go to do a thing, and it's easy for me to know who I am and how this works in order for me to belong. I'll be a good pickleballer if I do these 8 things, and I learn that through the way that I show up, and anybody that doesn't do it gets the sneer, gets the, we're going to have to ban you from the next tournament, right? All that. just space of experiencing, right? Not wrong, not bad, but it gets to be in that space of us defining ourselves. And so hopefully we have people that have that awareness, that have that presence, which when they come together in my model yield creativity, can be curious about that pickleballer who did that awkward thing or made that awkward comment or was inappropriate or said something offensive or whatever upset arises, that we can bring restoration to it without having to like flaunt it to everybody. We don't have to have these public apologies and all this bullshit like posturing. Really, it's connection. That's it. It's really the only wound that we're integrating is that of separation. That's it. And just if we can come to that space of having the person to say, I'm here to take responsibility for that. But there's only so much I can take responsibility for. And so therefore I create community, a community of people that love their OnlyFans, people play pickleball and make chips in Taiwan, right? That this unique niche community that I'm clear on my authenticity and showing up in that space. But if I keep coming back to it and back to it, and it never changes, I mean, to me, it's like it's going to be that space of like, how alive is it? Because slowly over time, it becomes this set in stone thing that becomes immovable. And really, it's that resilience. It's that creativity. It's that being able to come up with an irrational answer in the middle of, I think it's this, but no, this is really what's coming up. And that is the path, is the thing that's up, that is inviting you to step into this bold, unexplored, that really is the juice that we live for. It's not the good or the evil, getting it right or getting it wrong. It's really the authenticity of beingness, both here and together. Not either or, you know, it's that third space. This is I live in this space of like the true oneness we long to experience is the presence of the entire field of presence awareness with a fundamental duality. That if you think you found the thing, that ain't it. It's a tool. Great. It's working for you now, but this is your practice. And I'm practicing my ability of whatever that thing is.
And that's the thing I've been trying to practice is like, I've even told myself several times, stop saying that you found the thing. Like, because.
Wait, it's not pickleball?
It's definitely not pickleball.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
It's pickleball, but for somebody else, Tom.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Whew.
I played pickleball 3 times and they were all experiences. Well,
Great.
You know, I all I know is that when somebody pulled out, okay, so here's the rules for the kitchen. I'm like, honestly, I'm gonna pass.
Wait, there's something called the kitchen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm so glad I missed all that.
Yeah. So I was like, no,
Stay out of the kitchen. Yeah.
It's where you ferment the pickles.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That
stay
makes
out
sense.
of the kitchen sometimes, but not all the time. You know,
I
like,
mean,
and I'm like, okay.
You see the same thing in the way that kids come up with their own lexicon, right? Especially in this generation, where they come up with just because of the nature of like they don't have a real identity because everything's so globalized. So they're going to create a really clear, like anything but what y'all are doing. Like, and they come up with just meaninglessness to be able to have their own sense of power and belonging to their own thing, natural human experience. Which I think is another piece of evidence, Matt, to what you were talking about earlier. What's the future hold? The same as it ever was.
Yeah.
And we'll start integrating.
That's shit. Oh my God, Jeremy, I hate cutting you off here.
What?
I literally referenced that Talking Heads song like 2 hours ago. Right, Matt?
Yeah.
Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, oh my God.
And the arrogance sometimes, or the hubris to think that we would change from our fundamental nature, I think is always amusing to me, right?
Yeah.
It's like, especially with the cultures, like, you know, people should do this. I'm like, why are you using that word? Like, I think we like this word should be eradicated.
I mean,
even from a medical standpoint, as my journey of being a provider, you start to realize that all the modern day things are almost irrelevant compared to what people. This is why I got into psychology. This is why I got into philosophy. Is like, oh, I can tell you up and down to do the latest biohacking thing, but if you don't know how to change your habit and you don't know how to like be your true self,
right,
you'll never change anything on that habit forming of like doing the rehab or doing the thing that you know you should be doing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, but yeah, we're never gonna change, right? Like it's like Jeremy, I like the way you're framing this because it is like I didn't find a way to lose weight. I lost weight learning another lesson, and I keep that lesson with me, and I've integrated it into my life. But then next time it might be gaining weight. Like in other words, it's not about the weight. It's about the thing. And then even that's ephemeral and it's about some other thing next week, right? Like it's
what a great metaphor, Matt. And for me, again, reinforcing for me what's working for me might not work for somebody else, but to me, this idea of like, I'm here practicing my ability. And so I need to come back to these disciplines that I know have impact. Going to the gym, right? My intermittent fasting, it's been so impactful for me. Making sure that I'm making good food choices, right? And all those things that have an idea in my mind of this ideal, which oftentimes is a barrier because I create this impossible task that for me, I've learned like, okay, what's an easy way to get 80% done with one tiny little thing? I don't have to get to 100%. So for me, like I lost that 100 pounds 13 years ago. I got back on that sugar train a couple years ago after the hurricane here and just wasn't thinking about it. Went back to my old nature, this way of like just sloughing off and allowing that thing that hated me, allowing it to come back in. And so what do? I start poisoning myself. Like, I'll take another pint of ice cream. And so then I look at myself, oh man, I'm back up to 220 something.
Right.
So all I do is bring back in that like awareness of my intermittent fasting and no more desserts. Not no sugar. I can't have anything sweet, but no desserts because that was that big thing. And man, I lost 40 pounds without even doing anything else.
Yeah, because it's right there under the surface, right? It's not hiding out very far,
Yeah.
I think it's a good lesson for everything. But I mean, that's the part that like, I mean, honestly, this is why I get on my kids so much about their phones. I'm like, it's not about the phones. I don't care. I do care about the phones. Honestly, it drives me a little crazy, but it's not really about the phones. It's about that every time you reach for your phone, you're doing a rep in a gym that's entirely geared towards dissociating yourself with being present. Like that is it every single time. And they're like, that's super, like you sound ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, this tool is literally designed to make you forget that you're, sitting there for 2 hours. Like that's
that dopamine flex, the disassociation of it all of it.
And you know why I can sit in a room for 2 hours without my phone? Because I militantly practice that skill. That is not because I'm just good at it. It's not because I'm a boomer, which by the way, drives me fucking absolutely crazy when my kids are like, call somebody a boomer. I'm like, that person's 50. That person's not even like, I know what you mean. I know what you're
call
saying.
Other Gen Xers boomers just to fuck with them.
Yeah, I know.
It's great.
I know. It is
it's
super
great. I'm like, you're a boomer.
Oh my God. Yeah. But I watched South Park last night for the first time because apparently they're on the news a lot with the they're really taking a swing at Trump right now. It's funny.
Oh yeah.
It's funny it's not because I'm like let's all make fun of Trump. I mean, it's easy to make fun of it. I feel like it's almost too easy for South Park to do it.
Like they're limping in.
But he did. One of the kids on there, Cartman, has a podcast, and he's like, "This is easy. Lesbians are this, and gays are that, and like everything." And he's just like saying dumb shit that means absolutely nothing. And people are like, and you just watch the numbers start going up that he's reading. I'm like, oh, that's super funny that you guys are calling this out, because he's like, yeah, this is how you get people to listen to you. You just say dumb shit. I'm like, yeah, that summarizes 2025, I think. Right.
And there's an interesting space of like, going back to talking about our kids and devices and access to the internet and just immersive digital spaces, for lack of a better word. To me, I've always noticed, taught a lot of middle school and have noticed that really that space in there is really about grappling for that sovereign power. And boy, they offer so much power in those digital spaces, even
for sure. Yeah, that's interesting.
That the alternative, and most adults and most of a rational mind think about that dynamic for the kid being one of escape from this reality, which is true, being one of stepping into power in those digital realities, but really it's that space of that inability to be bored.
Yeah.
Because we had to be bored. There was no alternative. And so because we were bored, that creativity arose out of that spaciousness. And now there's just pick up one of 27 devices, and so the impact of not just our attention span, but our ability to be in a neutral space. Our ability to be in the, like, I'm not being subjugated, but I'm also not subjugating. Is challenging. And I think it's that space of those that are going to get caught in it are going to go the way of destruction. And those that don't, this is what my kids have taught me. I got 3 kids, is that they're going to go through it on their own, and they're going to practice their own. They've got their own lessons. It makes very little difference what I'm doing or how I show up for it. I'm an example. I have an impact. I have an influence. They're going to do what they're going to do. And that's them practicing being themselves. So that sovereignty and that power, the resonance that they get to feel, and just that things that they may have never experienced in their own nervous system that they may or may not ever experience. I don't know. I mean, that's theirs to do, right? And I get to let go of, like, of course I want my kids to have all sorts of amazing things and authenticity and good relationships and meaningful work and all those things that are meaning, right? But that's my meaning that I'm trying to put on them. It's really more just like inviting them to make those choices, to be able to practice, like, how does that feel? How does that feel? How does that? And then when they see beyond the, I'm going to have cake for dinner every time, you know, they're going to realize that, like, oh no, I feel better when I eat those vegetables that I thought I didn't like, or, you know, and then that thing changes over time, that they start realizing those energetic exchanges. I'm going to invest in this because it gives me this. I'm not just going to allow, you know, I'm jumping back on the porn thing here because I think it's a really good example for not wrong, not bad, but that release of sexual energy. I think it's having an impact on men, that it's so fast that they're satisfied, this desire, and also it's like vapid and digital, and there's no reassurance of that nervous system response for us to have that completion of our energy that we're releasing, right? I don't put any shame around any of it, but just in that practice of, you know, have that opportunity to explore that self-discipline. I know I've been pretty free and clear in my practice this year, and it's new for me to just have that sort of fasting from that practice, and just noticing the shift in energy in my awareness, in my field, my creativity. It's all those things, just to throw that all out there.
No, but it's that you could apply that on almost anything. Like, I mean, you know, like, porn is an easy sort of scapegoat because it has some sort of cultural
hits the same thing as everything else, doesn't it? It's the dopamine, it's the rush.
I was just listening to a podcast to a dopamine expert, an addiction expert, and she was addicted to romance novels, as an example. And when she fasted from romance novels, her whole creativity and her whole sphere, even though you would think of reading novels every day as like, oh, that's the good thing, the reality is she had an addiction to it that changed her brain chemistry to get her pigeonholed into a thing. And then when she fasted from it, she like massively improved her life from it. So it literally can be anything that you get addicted to.
And I'll tell you, my dirty addiction is health, right? Like, I mean, I mean, we made a fucking show about it, right? Like, I mean, like, it's a very consuming thing. So today is a great example. We had a show that got rescheduled. So I went out to grab food. I was going to go to a salad place. I had the whole thing in my mind. It was all like planned out. I get to the place. It's like, no shit, he's on. Fuck, got to turn around. So I come back and I open my refrigerator. The only thing in my refrigerator was leftover Chinese food that my parents got with my kids last night. And I was like, well, I guess I'm shoving some, you know, orange chicken down my throat. And only thing, the first reaction in my brain was, this is trans fats. This is like seed oil. This is fucking fried and garbage. This is terrible. There's probably fucking MSG all over this thing.
That sounds fucking amazing.
It sounds really good. But like, you have to check yourself for a second. Be like, dude, no one gets fat on 8 bites of fucking orange chicken. First of all, you didn't do this yesterday. You're likely not going to do it tomorrow. Like, fucking relax. And then I'm like, okay, I don't need to take. I'm out of a supplement. like, and I just didn't get it. I just out of it. Right. And now I'm like, that first reaction, oh my God, what am I going to do without this? Nothing. It's fine.
Yeah. You'll be fine. You're fine for the years and years you didn't take it.
Yeah, right. It's like, but that's my obsession, right? Like that's the thing where I'm like, dude, you just got to fucking chill, bro. I mean, this is not, this is not real.
Guys, I know we're going to keep going for another 2 hours.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we should probably try to aim for the door. Yeah. Jeremy, what do we do? What do we tell people about you? Do we tell them to go somewhere? Do we tell them to find you somewhere, or how do we?
I mean, on my Instagram is probably the easiest and most consistent way. Just at Jeremy Koester, Koester. I know y'all emailed me and I failed to send all those over.
It's all right. Our AI
don't worry, the AI is getting it.
Yeah, cool. Our AI will track your ass down. Don't you worry about it. For
sure. And on there, you're going to see two things I'm working on right now. One is my company with the model that I was telling you about. It's called EmpathX. So it's just EmpathX, the letter X.org. And then also another project that I'm helping with called Kids EQ. Dave's on the board. Dave's on the Representatives Advisory Committee.
And what the fuck does that mean?
I don't know. I don't.
The unofficial it's a board director seat without being a company official board director seat.
It.
Yeah.
Pre-seed advisory board. What it means,
gotcha.
I'm ignorant on what we're officially calling it these days. It's a Kids EQ is a project I've been working on for a couple of years, and it seems to be grabbing a little bit of wind underneath its wings lately, which is exciting. Yeah, cool. And I think those are going to be the things I'm moving forward with.
Awesome.
Cool.
So, yeah.
I love that we keep talking to people with these sort of like, I'm kind of loosely calling them like spirit projects, right? It's like these projects that are like kind of driving their soul kind of thing, right? And it is interesting because at 49, I've watched for several decades now, measurement in decades of people not doing that. And it's kind of interesting
I mean,
to
it's
watch.
A real cool shift. And I think it's in our age demographic too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Been here long enough to know I shouldn't, and I think I've got enough time left to know that I should, so I got to make a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jeremy, man, thanks. Dave, thanks for coming back on this show, even though we get to talk to you all the time. So,
right.
Thanks for making the introduction. And I'd say, Tom, our first co-guest,
next
guest
time,
co-host.
Let's see how many we can actually get on at one time and actually have a conversation.
We should have a whole Brady Bunch.
Exactly.
Can we have 9? But I get to be Alice.
Yeah. I call Alice. Yeah, that's funny.
Thanks for giving me so much airtime, y'all. I'm pretty passionate about my work and the service that I get to be in humanity and the mess that I'm bringing.
I love it.
It's all right, man.
It's
we love that.
Super cool.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy, don't hang up when we say goodbye, but thank you again for coming by. I really appreciate your time.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah. Cool. Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah, you as well.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.